right?
Yeah, I don't know.
It is. And then the 21st, I'm off a week on my shows. Well, that's okay. I mean, if
Yeah.
he's there, yeah, that would make sense. Well, I'll look at my schedule again. Now I'm lost because I
Nope.
know I travel 4 weeks in August, so I'm confused.
Yeah. No, you're not lost. You're just live.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Hey,
Perfect. Perfect.
I let
See,
you
we
run on
didn't even have to do
for
a
4 minutes
blooper for
there.
that one.
No, no, I let you run on for a minute or two also. So I think it was good. We're kind
Good
of
thing I
known
didn't
for
say
our intros
anything.
being like
Yeah.
that.
It's a good thing I didn't say anything bad about Lou Peoples or anything.
All right. So, welcome to episode number 123 of Mirrorless Minutes, you guys. It's going to be an interesting show because I think Mike and I are going to recap recent travels, and I finally have something to talk about that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. And no, it's not that I'm finally 6'4". It's that I've actually got a piece of equipment that everybody's been asking me for my opinion on. But first, let's just jump in and say, hey, welcome, Mike. You're home.
I am again, and I think it's three in a row. This will be it, though.
Yeah,
This
I'm
is it.
kind
I
of,
think all the next shows are all on the road or unable to even get on. So
yeah,
yeah, it's really an interesting thing. Again,
yeah,
traffic. I'm sick of traffic. I need to travel. I can't stand traffic here.
yeah. That's funny.
I'm so used to not driving in traffic. But
But
yeah, I'm home.
you travel to larger cities in your.
Yeah, but you know what? That traffic is. I just know it's going to be bad, so I don't really worry about it. Here, it's like you want to get home. You got stuff to do, like the show.
Right.
You're like, come on, hour and 15 minutes today to go 20 miles. It's enough.
Not
I
good.
I know how much you love it when you got to come out here.
Yeah, it's a different world where you live.
Hmm.
So speaking of different worlds, you travel to basically what would be a different world from where you're normally at. You
Yeah.
traveled way up north in Michigan.
Yeah, I was in Petoskey. Yeah, Petoskey for a week, Harbor Springs, and funny thing is I see you the next day. You were there, the
Yeah,
same, or you passed me. You went
that's
further,
right through. Yeah,
further north.
yeah,
I'm sure you'll talk about that. But yeah, that would
first
have
day
been
of the
cool
night.
to have you stop by.
Yeah,
But yeah, and then I went way up north to Tequamanon Falls and took the huge long route out up way Highway 2 up into the UP.
yeah.
Wow, and that is another world, and I know you know that because from your workshops.
Oh
I,
yeah,
I love it up there. It is really relaxing, I will tell you.
it's definitely beautiful. It's funny when I'm up there. One of the things that's constantly on my mind is as I'm driving through these remote areas and seeing, people's homes and
Right.
thinking, where do these people work?
That's
What are they
exactly what we said the whole way up.
I'm like, if you don't get cell phone service, you're not remote logging into anything. You might remote
No.
log into a campfire and a mosquito bite, but
Yeah. If anything, they still have like one of those 20-foot satellite dishes in their front yard,
yeah,
from 25 years ago. And
yeah,
who knows if that
it's,
works.
it's pretty
So,
crazy. But it's beautiful country, so I'm glad
yeah.
you made it up there and glad you had fun. So we talked the previous show about just packing for different trips and how we
Right.
pack and some of our experiences with travel and taking the right gear or what we
Yeah.
think is going to be right for it. What did you end up taking on this trip? Because
Um,
you had a Sprinter van full of
I
stuff.
did. Did you see
Was it
my
in the
stuff?
camera gear?
Yeah, hardly. 6 bikes. That was one thing.
Wow.
One of the problems was 2.5 days of rain out we had too, total rain
Yeah,
washout. So the biking thing didn't go as good as I wanted.
sure.
Still went well, but not as great. I took the EM1 Mark II and EM1X, and of course the TG5 for
Yeah.
canoeing and boating. But took the 300, and I was told my wife when I was shooting with that, I said I feel like I'm shooting like Jamie McDonald. First time I've shot the 300 this year. I mean, so
Yeah.
think about it. Compared to what you shoot it, it's hard to do street shooting with the 300. you know?
Two
I,
blocks away.
yeah, I was gonna say, man, if I could see me bringing that into New York when I was on the workshop with Megan, I probably could have got into some serious buildings looking into
You
there.
probably could have got into some serious trouble. You look like you're carrying a rocket
Yeah,
launcher.
definitely. But I use mostly, like you would think, the 12 to 100, and
Yeah.
because that's what I use for all my filters. I didn't even pull out the 7 to 14 when I was in Tequamanon. And the
Oh
main
yeah.
reason is we got there. Remember, I told you that grand plan of I wanted to leave at 3:30 in the morning, and
Yeah.
that didn't work out.
No.
Family made other decisions for me on that one. I figured I had to keep the peace by that time of the week. So we got up there probably 10 o'clock, 10:30, and it was hotter than all get out up north. For them, it was like in the low 90s. It doesn't get to the low 90s way up there.
No.
Um,
Too often.
so, so you had everybody and their brother. I mean, I had these four guys that would not get out of my shots, all with no shirts on, all with 200 pounds overweight. I'm like, come on, get out of the shots.
Yeah.
It was, and because we took the boat over to the island, the
Yeah.
rowboat over to the
Yep.
island, so you could walk right out onto the things, and everybody's walking out there, and I said, "Oh, this
It's
is
tough.
nuts." Yeah, and I ended
Yeah.
up shooting I think I shot 14 portraits that day for
Yeah.
people because I was the only one I was the only one sitting in water, of course, and the Vanguard tripod works so great.
Yeah.
I was, that's in water. I'm sitting in water, and people are coming up to me. Would you mind getting up and taking our shot? No, it doesn't. I'm not doing anything. I mean, I've walked all the way out here and I'm in water. Sure, I'll take your iPhone shot for you. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. If you don't get out there like you had originally
I
planned,
know
it's tough. It's really tough.
So all that means is I'm going to go back. That's all.
Yeah. Let me know when.
Yeah, maybe I should do a workshop and come up there.
It's not unheard of for me to sleep in the back of a car up by
Yeah,
the
I
Mackinac
just
Bridge or
heard that.
to get the shots. So
Yeah, but I brought the 8mm, brought the fisheye,
yeah.
hoping I was going to get some grand dark park stuff. Got to see the dark park, took a really nice sunset picture from there, and that's all I got.
Yeah.
Stayed till like 12:30. It got dark, but it was cloudy. And like you said,
Sure.
there's lots of people and they don't understand about red lights, and their kids
Right.
kids are wearing all the sparkler things or whatever around them.
Oh
So yeah, I felt like
Uh,
I was watching some scene from Close Encounters of the Third Kind or something, waiting for the ship to land. So
and you gotta also take into account that when you were up there, there was a nearly full moon too. That kind of gets tough as well. I mean, it's tough, but it sounds like you did really good with everything. Anyways, I mean, weather permitting. I mean, you guys were out shooting and
oh yeah, I was out shooting the whole time.
Family, having fun with family.
Yeah, and that's one of my shots when we talk about shots tonight. So, but yeah, and then how about you? So you took a little just road trip, huh? You got in and did like I'm gonna drive and see what happens.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it worked. I left. I came home on Friday after work and hung out until after dinner time, and then left late to get up to the camper. Basically got there just in time, pretty much to go to bed, and then took off from there to work. It's like a one-on-one class is what the intention of me being up there originally was supposed to be, and I just ended up driving north and just kept going north, and there are a lot of things I haven't seen on that side of the state. I hadn't been to Petoskey before, or Charlevoix, or that area at all. So it was basically just road trip time. And it was just about seeing things I'd never seen before and shooting places I'd never been. And it was incredible. And I'll tell you what, I think it was small scale. The grand scale vision of what I'd love to do one day is to just do the same thing, except go from here to California.
Right.
No plan. No anything, just go and just see what happens. And you find these little roadside pull-offs, these little parks along Lake Michigan, that are small community parks that aren't even probably hardly on a map really, and just stunningly beautiful. And that's kind of what I did. And it just kept continuing on until I got to the Mackinac Bridge to shoot that at night. Yeah. That's funny. Got a lesson here for people. I've shot the Mackinac Bridge only a handful of times, 3 or 4 times. 3 times at night, and this last one was my 3rd time at night. I've never left there with a photo that I was happy with, ever. They always seemed either there wasn't interesting sky, or there was too much fog, and they never seemed to come out sharp enough. And it's not the equipment. It's not what I'm shooting with. It's not that I don't know what I'm doing. What I learned really quick is that it's a big ass bridge and it moves. So if you're running a longer exposure, you don't realize it from the distance with your eyes that the bridge is moving. So it's never really super sharp. But if you get up there on a night when it's extremely calm and the water's flat and it's late and the traffic is almost non-existent, the bridge doesn't move hardly at all. It's very imperceptible in your final image. So
that's an interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I never realized until I got these shots. Is that's probably a big part of why I was never satisfied with what I'd shot in the past. Is that the bridge was moving. So, little tip: if your shots aren't turning out sharp, it might not be you. It might just be the bridge is moving or building or what have you. You know, the things that can move. You know, regardless of size, you put them in the right conditions, they'll move.
Sure.
But the little pointer I wanted to point out wasn't that so much as it was. So, in prepping for working with this person on their equipment, I wanted to set up my card slots so that I was shooting RAW to one, JPEG to the other, just to show them, you know, hey, you've got 2 card slots. You know, you can set your card slots up so that, you know, if you're shooting like in an art mode or something like that, your JPEGs feed over to this card slot and they look like they did in the camera. And you've also got the RAW file, you know, pristine and untouched. Or you could set up your cards so that they overflow or that it's a redundant backup. Going through all this process of setting up my card slots, at some point I set my camera to JPEG.
And this was before going there.
Oh, right? Yeah. This was way before going there. This was like in the middle of the day. This was like 5 shots into my whole day.
Right.
So basically, everything I shot the entire trip, save for 4 pictures, 3 pictures, I'm sorry, because it was a bracket. Everything else, JPEG. And if you've seen any photos that I shoot, they tend to be vibrant, saturated, really contrasty, a lot of depth and structure to them. You can kind of get something similar out of a JPEG, but you can't really do what I do with a JPEG. No. And it didn't even dawn on me, not even looking in the Finder window on my computer at the files, that they were all JPEG. I just offloaded. I didn't even realize it until trying to process an image. So I loaded my files and I looked at a sequence of brackets and thought, yeah, I'm going to work on this one. I merged them to HDR in Lightroom, and all the shadows turned chocolate brown. And I thought, well, what the heck is this? What's going on? So then I chose a different set of images from a different point in time in the day. Same thing. The shadows were like this chocolatey brown. The whites turned like sweat-stained tank top trailer park yellow. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm flipping out. And then I realized, oh, my God. They're JPEG. I didn't take the RAW files off the card somehow.
Yeah.
Get the card out, put it in. I'm like, because there's not any RAW files on the card. Man. Oh, my God. So I spent hours traveling and driving. Shooting. But saving grace, I at least have one photo of the bridge that I really like a lot. And you know what I had to do that picture in Lightroom? Nothing.
Well, I was just going to say, you probably didn't do much to it.
The JPEG was the bomb right off of it. So when I share images, I'll show that. That's my first image. But little tip, if you changed your camera settings off of what you normally use, remember to go back to what you normally use, or have it set as one of the custom settings on your camera, whether it's one of your My Sets or your C1, 2, or C3 or whatever on the later cameras. After that, I actually have C3 set on my camera to go back to my default shooting mode.
Yeah, that's a smart way, because I still don't do that. I've had that happen, and oh my God, I was mad. So mad. Like a whole day of shooting in the streets, and I think it was the first workshop in New York. It was just, you got to be kidding me. Which was still good. Most of it was Pen F, and I liked the JPEG, but still, there's cases you want that RAW.
Oh yeah, and it's it can happen to anybody, and it's funny. I didn't even want to tell. I've got a little private chat group with a few friends of mine. One of them is Mark Miller, who I lead workshops with, and he and I did the workshop in Moab. And Mark's first day, I think almost his entire first day in Moab, he was shooting JPEG and didn't realize it. And we shoot a lot of dynamic settings where
Oh man,
there's a lot of light and shadow, and you need to be able to bracket. And he was pretty bummed out, and I felt embarrassed to mention anything in front of those guys. And Mark reminded me, hey, I did it too. And I'm like, that's right. It's not just me. I'm not the only one.
no.
So lesson learned.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. That's for sure. That is for sure.
Yeah. So we could probably go into an image share if you want to do an image share. And we can kind of talk about after that. We've got a guest coming on in a couple of weeks here, which would be kind of cool to.
Do you want to talk about your thing that you were sent during your image share? Don't you have some pictures? You said a series of pictures of a couple shots with the extension.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay. Do you want to do that separate, or do you want to do that?
I can do it all. We can do it all now.
Okay, that's fine.
You're not talking about me talking about that, right?
Yeah, possibly. No, not that one. Not that one.
That comes later.
That's a later. That's a teaser.
Yeah, I hope nobody goes back and freezes that frame and
don't freeze that frame. We're gonna blur it out.
Yeah. So what I alluded to earlier that I finally received after a lot of teeth pulling and one-sided name calling. I might have called names. It wasn't called names, but so I finally got basically what was the last MC20 teleconverter available in the world is how it felt. So my contact at Olympus, Eric, thank you, Eric. I really didn't call you names. He basically pulled the only sample that they had at corporate headquarters and sent it to me because I've been getting blasted with questions from people asking me, what do I think of it? Have I shot with it? What's it like? Is it something they should invest in? And I was unable to tell them anything about it because very few people have them. The initial shipments that went out, Olympus sent them straight to the customers, which kudos to them. It's good because you guys paid for them. You should get them first. I understand it. But I was a little bummed out that that some of us in the program didn't have access to them earlier so that we could at least give you a little bit of our personal feedback. But lo and behold, I pushed, and Eric sent me the only one that they had there at the office. And of course, since I've gotten it, I've pretty much had crap weather almost the entire time. And when we didn't have crap weather, I was working. Like I have that day job thing that I do. Yeah. And I've been spending time writing presentations for a camera store event that's going on this weekend. But I do have a couple sample images that I'll share here. And if you're friends with me on Facebook or any of the Olympus groups on Facebook, you've probably seen these photos, so I apologize for resharing something you've already seen. But if you're somebody who doesn't follow those groups or follow me on Facebook or friends with me or whatever, these will be probably new images for you. My initial impressions before I even start showing the images are, this is sharp. You have a couple of criteria that need to be met for sharp to happen. Number one is stability. The image stabilization in these cameras is insane. With the EM1 Mark II and the EM1X, with that image stabilization working in conjunction with the stabilization in the 300, you've just got an unprecedented amount of stabilization. But that only goes so far. And we're talking about like 1,200 millimeters of field of view, like the effective focal length. I don't know if that's correct terminology or not. I know that the field of view is 1,200.
But anyway, I'm just trying to think of what that lens would be on a full frame.
It's a long lens. And you've got to understand that even the tiniest movements are exaggerated exponentially. It's one thing to shoot with the 300. I can shoot with the 300 handheld running down the road almost and get sharp shots. I can shoot with the 300 with the 1.4 teleconverter on handheld, and the majority of the time my shots are sharp. I don't put it on a tripod a lot with that teleconverter. I really don't. With this, I put it on the tripod a lot to get my best shots. I was leaned up against something pretty stable, and I'll admit I'm probably not the person with the best technique in the world. I've only been shooting for 11 years. I'm not like somebody like Scott Bourne, who's been shooting since tintype, and he's had 75 years. I'm just joking, Scott. But he's got a ton of experience. But he's got a ton of experience, and you can't beat experience and technique and practice. He's got years of practice over me. So somebody like him can probably do this. I couldn't. So if you're going to get this teleconverter, keep in mind your technique needs to be solid. or you need to be solid. Okay. And of course you're going to want, light. Once you
I
put this
was just going to
teleconverter
say
on,
you need some light, don't you?
yeah, you're now at
Yeah.
F8 right out of the gate. So, and
Right.
F8's not bad. It's when you've got decent light and your subject's not moving and you're not moving. These are freaking sharp pictures as long as your shutter speed is, appropriate. So again, I'll share a couple of images here in a second, and you can see how much reach this thing has. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
I let Jerry James, buddy of mine, who's going to be doing a workshop with me this fall, use it in Grand Haven, and he did a similar thing. He had his 12 to 40 on, I think, and shot at 12 millimeters out over Lake Michigan, the lighthouse and the pier off in the distance, and then threw this on. And in his original 12 millimeter shot, you can see the fog house at the end of the pier and these little dots, along the pier. And then you put this monster, it's like you're seeing into the future with it.
Right.
You put that on, and you can literally see somebody's got a cell phone in their hand, and it's like, what? It's crazy cool. But again, conditions need to be right for handle. You need fast shutter speeds.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you want my opinion so far from what I've shot, I would hands down say buy it. If you shoot wildlife, this increases the distance from you to your subject double what you're used to, which means you're way more likely to get shots of animals you might not have before because they're easily spooked.
Yeah, and especially with the autofocus, like if you had the EM1X, oh my God, that's got to be amazing. I'm just thinking that would be an amazing thing to have at a race too. If you were up high somewhere where maybe you couldn't get on the fence, you don't even need to be on the fence with that.
I agree totally. So Andrew Oakey said
the monopod.
I actually got mine sitting over here. I've got a Vanguard monopod with a ball head on it. So yeah, I like that setup too. It's great for panning for birds and things like that. Right. So you want to jump into an image here? Do you want to share what you shot on your family trip?
Well, why? Yeah, why don't I? No, go ahead. I'll do mine because you've been talking. Give you a rest.
Yeah.
Give you a rest, and we'll discuss. I did not bring the. Oh, I brought the teleconverter, but I didn't use it for the shot. So you seeing the sunset there?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so this is in Petoskey, and signs everywhere for Petoskey. If you've ever been up there, as they talk about $1 million sunsets. They absolutely are. This is one before the day and a half of rain, so you can see the clouds coming in. But this is one of my what I call my Jamie McDonald shots with my 300 and the EM1 Mark II actually with this one. But just love that with that 300 and compressing that sun down. It just it's just an awesome shot to be sitting out there and watching all these guys with these, super heavy duty kits trying to come out there to grab stuff. And I just walk up and 2 or 3 shots, I got this right away. Then I started working on with some of the family members that I had with me, some silhouettes. I love getting silhouettes. This is actually my daughter-in-law there, doing some yoga poses. Lots of fun, and we did all kinds of crazy things. Some of the stuff I've shared, others I probably won't share because they were doing some funky things, and I even got a photographer in there and stuff too. I thought that was a lot of fun. This is with the this here. I finally got my Highland cows, I guess we'll call them Highland cattle, and this was in Boyne Highlands out near Petoskey. This actually is a JPEG shot with the 12 to 100, and then using the magnification, the 2 times magnification on it. So the reach really got out there because he just would not come out of the weeds. Again, I was telling you, it was like 91 degrees. I knew there was no way these guys were going to come out. But I've always wanted one of these. Jamie gets these all the time. I love these cows. I mean, they're great looking. I mean, everybody that sees them, they look like they remind me of the Beatles or something from 1964. They're just crazy looking with that hair. So that was absolutely a lot of fun to catch some of those and get some shots there. So here's some of the Tequamanon shots. In fact, I want to go here with this. This is one of the ones I was sitting way out in the water. tripod about 6, 8 inches deep, and me, with just some rubber shoes on so that I could get out there, where I was taking people's pictures as long as my own, as well as my own. But this is with the Nisi filter, the 10 stop, grad or not a grad filter, 10 stop filter on there. And, let's see, this is 12 to 100, the EM1 Mark II, using that tripod over on the angle where it clips over to the angle. That was just great. That Vanguard tripod. It's the first time I've really used all the pieces that you can with that thing, and and it was so darn bright. Like I said, it was probably 11 o'clock when I shot this, so you're really getting on in the day. But if you're ever up in Dequaminon, all the falls, and like Jamie knows too, all this stuff runs. This all copper, Jamie? Is that what the copper color? Is that copper coming through there?
It's the minerals in
the minerals, and some of these falls, these are the lower ones, but some of them are just so big, they're just so brown. They're amazing looking, but trying to focus on the rock, getting these rocks out there in the foreground, and getting a couple mid-ground shots in there too. But so I got sick of, like I said, of chasing people out of my shot. So I went to the back of the island and tried to find some natural framing, because basically what you see here is all the water coming down and then going to either side of the island. Yeah, so found some nice natural framing there between the dead trees, the live trees, and everything coming in here. Again, with that same filter. It's about a 4-second, 5-second exposure, I think. But just a beautiful day. Although extremely hot for up there. And, the big thing that when we go out there and we shoot, and you got your family and they've been good enough, is, I put this one in there, don't forget to get a family picture. This was after canoeing in down a river. You can see my son here. My youngest one had a bit of an issue falling into the muck and the mud. I did not, so I was very happy. None of us took but him. And but this was the TG. Always bring your little tripod in the TG5. It's just great to have for a quick camera shot, so that you can get, like Jamie says, you get something in RAW too, and you can work it. So a lot of fun being out there. Great family time. And in the end, yeah, I got photos, but the family time was way better.
Oh yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And you guys, you picked probably one of my favorite areas of the whole state. So I mean,
we're going back for sure. Absolutely,
you have to. You must.
Mm-hmm.
You should go to the UP with me too. It's fun.
Yeah, I know. Denise wants to do that. I got to get my wife wants to do that.
There you go. All right, so this is finally the Mighty Mackinac Bridge. Finally got a shot of it that I'm happy with. That is actually sharp. And it's funny because it looks like you're looking at maybe like a widescreen view of it until you notice the reflection in the water coming down here at the bottom off of the tower there. So this is basically all just water. This is a high-res shot too. That's what I shot this in. I find myself wanting to do the longer exposures in high-res mode. So I've been doing that a lot with running water, or just rivers are really good. And if you've got wide stretches of water that don't have big waves but just ripples going on, I kind of like the effect that you get from that by using the high res shots. So, and I think that that's part of what helped me actually salvage a shot from that night as well, is that I know it's not stated anywhere, but I am a firm believer, and I'm going to stand by it, that there's definitely a little bit more dynamic range and leeway in those high res files than there is in just a standard JPEG. So that's kind of what this was. It was an incredible trip. Definitely will never forget that for my whole life. I finally got up there and got to just stand there on a beautiful night and shoot the bridge. It's great. The next shot, so it's funny, I kind of post these things on Instagram all the time, asking people questions. I've gotten really big into doing that lately, like posting to my stories and asking questions and telling people to ask me questions and give me, things to do or what have you. And somebody mentioned that they like the flower shots that I was doing. So I just kind of got the inspiration to go out and do something a little different. Went out and picked a bouquet of wildflowers and really only had the 7 to 14 with me and the 12 to 100. And it's always fun to just get those crazy dramatic perspective shots with the 7-14. So that's literally what I did, is camera in one hand and reach out in front of it with the other. And you're probably wondering, how in the heck do you hold a bokeh in your right hand and then figure out how to trigger the shutter with your left when the buttons are set up for a right-handed person? I'll let you figure that out. But it was just fun. And this is actually a bracketed shot too. It kind of shows you how quickly you can run a bracketed shot and how good the image stabilization is on these cameras. And then shooting at 7mm also kind of helps reduce any minor movement that you might get. It's easier to stabilize that crazy wide angle. So yeah, it was just kind of a fun shot. EM1X 7-14mm at f2.8 because I wanted the flowers nice and sharp. In the background, I didn't care what happened with it, just to show you the setting that I was in. So those were kind of like back to back, like one weekend, and then a few days later shot the flowers. And then the next one was this past weekend. Sort of did the same kind of thing, just a trip up the west side of the state. Drug my wife along for the drive, knowing that there was some weather that was going to be coming in. And we kind of went over near Ludington. There were these big wind turbines. And the whole time I'm keeping an eye on the radar, expecting to see this bow echo come in off of the lake. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it was the cell service up there, if it was the app I was using, but I think my radar app was about 20 minutes behind or 30 minutes behind. Usually it's 5 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes at the most. This was about a full half hour behind. So when I thought that I had about a half hour to get to my spot, this is where I wanted to be, was at Little Sable Point Lighthouse, I thought I had plenty of time. I pull into the parking lot, and as I'm pulling up to the spot, I'd been there earlier in the day and run back and forth across all these dunes trying to figure out where I wanted to be set up for a shot. So it was cool to get there early in the day, pre-plan where I wanted to be based on the direction that the weather was coming from, which is in the north in this shot. So I knew where I wanted to be for this. But I get to the parking lot, and as I'm pulling up, I look up and I literally said, "Holy crap," but not crap. And my wife's like, "Is that it? It's already here?" I'm like, "God, yeah, it is." So I jumped out of the car and just hauled butt up the dune, just trucking with the camera in my hand. And I had enough time to set up and probably take, I'm going to say, 6 different shots. And this is a panorama shot in portrait orientation with the 7-14mm. This is at 7mm. So that gives you an idea of just how expansive this whole wall cloud or shelf cloud coming in was. So it's portrait orientation panorama made up of 6 shots in portrait orientation. So, I mean, this is just a sweeping, humongous panorama that is also bracketed shots. So each bracket is 3 shots at plus or minus 3 EV. And the beauty of Lightroom now is that before you used to be able to stitch a panorama or you could stitch an HDR bracket, now you can do an HDR panorama. So I find myself in these situations doing that a lot, where I've got just a whole bunch of dynamic range and I want to be able to bring out the drama in the scene. That's kind of what I do. I have one of my custom mode dials on my camera set up. So C2, when I hit that, it takes me straight into this mode where it's plus or minus 3 EV just right out of the gate. And that's kind of what I do. So bracketed shot here at Little Sable Point. Super fun. Then after that, we kind of worked our way down the coast, and I don't even remember where we were at when we stopped. We found this little park that had a marsh near it, and we just kind of walked down this boardwalk, and I was dying to find anything to shoot with this 300 with the teleconverter. There were no birds. There were 50 million people in kayaks, so all the animals were nowhere to be found. So I found myself shooting dragonflies. And I know I've heard people mention elsewhere that, and I don't know if it was Olympus in advertising or if it was, I don't know where it was at, but I know I had heard mention people saying just the telemacro capabilities of this combination would be good. So that's kind of what I did. It was the only thing I had left to shoot. This is not a crop. This is not edited in any way. This is just a straight out of the camera, shot right out of Lightroom as a JPEG. And this is at ISO 800 too. So I had to put it at ISO 800. It was a cloudy day. I needed a fast enough shutter speed to freeze this guy who was kind of swaying in the wind a little bit. But just the detail in it, again, if you're considering getting this because you want that reach, just don't even think about it. Just do it. If you've got the funds to buy it, just buy it. I don't think you'll be disappointed. If you're disappointed, call me up and I'll come over to your house and take it. You'll like it. So again, headed home, I knew of this little lake that we could stop at, and I hoped that we would have better weather, but you can see in the sky up here that we really didn't have any better weather at all. But I was determined to get something that just kind of showed the capabilities of this teleconverter until I get better weather to shoot with you guys. So this is at a place called Yankee Springs Recreation Area here in Michigan. It's just like 1,000 acres of untouched land with a couple of lakes on it all over the place. And there was a gentleman out there kayaking. I watched him put in. I let him get out there a ways, kind of hoping that he would go slow so I could get a series of shots. I really lucked out because he got out there and decided to start fishing. So he got out there, and I started off by shooting with the 12 to 100 on the camera. So this is at 12 millimeters, and this is where that gentleman's at 12 millimeters. The next shot is at the 100 millimeter end of the 12 to 100. You can see he's got his rods all set up, and he's doing his fishing. The next shot is at 300 millimeters, so no teleconverter. 300 millimeters is no slouch. I mean, it's got some reach to it. But then when you put the MC20 on there and you bump out to 600 millimeters or 1200 equivalent, I mean, damn. I mean, you can reach way out there. So it's pretty cool. The detail is great. This was, he's got a little bit of softness to him, but he's sitting in the water, so he's moving a little bit. And even with that considered, I was able to get a decent shutter speed. I didn't crank up the ISO. I wanted this as clean of a file as I could give everybody. So this is just an ISO 200. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the let me just see if I can go the info here. Let's say I don't remember the exact, what do you call it? The shutter speed on it. Oh, tools, inspector. So shutter speed, sorry you guys, it's at f8, ISO 200. That's 1/100th of a second. So it's not exactly very fast considering the focal length here. So, I mean, the softness that you do get on him is purely just, his movement. But even then I wouldn't say he's soft. I mean, this is a printable image. His rod is actually really, really sharp here. So yeah, I just got to say, if you're considering that teleconverter, stop considering it and just buy it. If you're somebody who shoots wildlife, again, it's going to be a conditions appropriate kind of a tool. You're going to want enough light to be able to use it. If you're in the Mara in Africa shooting, on safari, you've got like bright light. This is going to be the lens of the gods. I mean, you've got all that reach without the weight that everybody else shooting full frame would be carrying. So,
yeah, that's crazy. That one with the teleconverter, it almost looks as sharp as the straight up the 300 without the teleconverter shot. Yes, what I mean? No. It's I don't see any difference in it. That's crazy.
I don't either. And I know that there were some initial reports from people who had gotten their hands on them early. Mm-hmm. Lucky them. And they were complaining about, it's just not sharp. It's soft. And
yeah,
the images that I was seeing were motion blur. Well, it wasn't an artifact or a cause of anything in the converter. Yeah. It was just your settings. I mean,
yeah, you're definitely right.
And it's funny. I was explaining to somebody that was having issues, and wondering, how that, how barely moving could have any effect on it. I said, well, you got to think about how much you're exaggerating what's going on at the end of this lens. And I said, a good example would be, put this on your camera, go out and point it at the moon in your tripod, and then just sit there and watch the viewfinder. Watch how fast the moon looks like it's moving through the viewfinder.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is amplified and exaggerated through it. So, I mean, you got to figure every little tiny movement. I mean, hell, just look at when you're trying to focus on something, just a tiny movement. It's like this all over the place.
Exaggerated, right? So now, will that work on the 40 to 150 as well? Not that you would need to, but.
Yep, I haven't put it on there yet. So, I mean, you got to figure with the 40 to 150, you're going to be at f5.6. So you're still a stop slower than the f4 at 300.
I know.
But that's assuming you have the 300. If you don't have the 300.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, if you don't have the 300, well, you didn't bring it with you. Yeah.
So that's going to be something that I do. I've just got to get through this weekend and do these presentations at this camera store event, and then I'll have some time freed up.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go out and I'm actually going to do like this. It's like a benchmark. I'm going to set up cameras, tripods, lenses, teleconverters, and I'm just going to go through shooting the same subject with different combinations.
Cool.
And I'll probably put together a gallery on Flickr and then do a blog post on it as well, so people can see that that's something they should buy if they want the reach. I'm dying to shoot a sunset with this thing.
Yeah,
no
kidding.
Made to shoot a sunset.
Oh, yeah.
but I'm a sucker for the giant ball of fire setting in the distance with people silhouetted against our sailboats and things like that, or the moon rising or something of that nature. It'll be cool. I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I guess
definitely.
Before we go, we're like at the 40-minute mark. I won't keep droning on too long here, but I just wanted to mention that there's a gentleman who's been making some waves in some of the Olympus groups, mentioning that he switched from Sony full frame to Micro Four Thirds. And I'm such a jerk. I'm hoping I'm not pronouncing your name wrong, but it's Matt Seuss. Looks like Seuss to me. And so we're going to have Matt on as a guest. We kind of are shifting gears a little bit in the show. We want to talk more about not just Olympus, but, mirrorless in general. And Matt has a cool perspective. He came from the Sony camp over to Micro Four Thirds. So, we're going to have him on and just kind of talk about his journey from Sony to the Olympus system and just find out what he's been seeing so far. Pros and cons of both. I think he'd be a good person to give us, I think a fair comparison of what it's like shooting with both systems. And Mike is going to be gone that week, so it works out pretty good that Matt happened to stumble on the scene and catch everybody's eye with a couple of his posts. Yeah. So I look forward to that. That's the 14th, Mike? Is that what it is?
We're thinking it is. Our next show.
The next show. How about that, you guys? So there's that. And was there anything else we had to talk about? I don't think that's it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. Mike's selling a drone. If anybody wants to buy a drone.
Yeah. You'll see it on eBay. Or private message me quickly. I'm willing to make a good deal.
There you go, folks. Mike's a good guy to buy from. So with that said, you guys, we'll see you in a couple of weeks with guest Matt Seuss on the show. If you're in Michigan this weekend, head over to the west side of the state. Joe Edelman's going to be in Holland at the West Michigan Camera Club. He's speaking there. I think he might have a couple of engagements he's doing Friday night and part of the day on Saturday. And when you're done Saturday, swing further up north from there to Muskegon. And I'm working all day long at the camera shop of Muskegon. I'll be doing a couple of presentations there. I'll be doing one on night sky photography. It's system agnostic. The stores love it when you do that because then everybody's welcome, not just us Olympus people. So I'll be talking about night sky photography, and then I'll also be talking about wildlife photography in Michigan that's accessible to everybody. So you don't have to be taking off on a far-flung adventure to get great animal and wildlife photos in the state, and I'll show you how to do it. And then we're going to end the day with a photo walk as well. So
cool.
Maybe we'll see you guys on the west side, and if not, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Right, Mike?
Sounds good. Yep. See ya.
All right. You guys take care.